laundry, they even cleaned my windows. You just pick a date, pick a cleaner, and enjoy a spotless house for $19. I love using Home Aglow, and I think you will too.
I can feel the winds of change.
At Hers, we can help you handle hair loss, get care for your mental health, boss without burning out, and feel your best with simple-to-access personalized care. For hair shedding and thinning, anxiety, burnout, depression, and more. Get started at forhers.com.
Thanks for sticking with us here on our breaking news special coverage here on Scripps News. President Joe Biden is ending his 2024 re-election bid. He was recovering from COVID at his beach house in Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, his family home. Released this letter just before 2 p.m. Eastern time this afternoon. Reading in part, "It has been the greatest honor of my life to serve as your president. And while it has been my intention to seek re-election, I believe it's the best interest of my party and the country for me to stand down and focus solely on fulfilling my duties as president for the remainder of my term." Biden then went on to say he appreciates and thanks Kamala Harris for serving as his vice president. Then later tweeted out another tweet saying he believes that Kamala Harris is the candidate that the Democrats should rally behind to move forward. This all culminating and kind of cascading down from that debate performance last month that raised a lot of eyebrows and started a waterfall of dissent among congressional Democrats calling for Biden to pass the torch and step aside. We now know Sunday, July 21st, that President Biden is bowing out of the 2024 race. We have so much more ahead. Stay with us here on Scripps News. We will be back in 2 minutes.
This is you. You've written a book. Congratulations. You're a writer. But wait, to be a true author, you have to actually publish your book. So the next step is to find a publisher or agent that shouts it out to the world that you're a real author. This is where we come in. Discover Publishers will help you find the right publisher to edit, illustrate, print, sell, distribute, and promote your book. We will match your needs with our list of qualified publishers and agents to find the right fit. And the best part? It's completely free. We connect publishers with writers just like you. We put you in the driver's seat as publishers rush to your door to get your book in bookstores. Publishers have specific strengths. We know them and will find the right ones for you. Don't run all over town. Make publishing houses come to you. DiscoverPublishers.com gets you free access to the leading publishers in the industry. Fast.
Call for your free publisher kits, 800-570-3208, and find the right publisher for your book. That's 800-570-3208, 800-570-3208.
Hi, and welcome everyone watching at home. We're here to remind you that we have agents standing by right now to answer your legal questions. So if you've been injured in an accident, it was not your fault. Call now. Find out if you have a case and how much is potentially worth. I'm Gina Bellich, here with spokesman and TV personality Tom Mustin. So Tom, tell everyone watching at home who should call right now.
Well, Gina, first off, thank you for having me here in the studio. Now, as far as who should call in, the answer is anyone who's been injured in an accident that was not your fault should give us a call right now. Agents are standing by to answer any questions you may have and tell you how much your case is potentially worth.
Thanks, Tom. So what kind of calls are we seeing today?
Well, Gina, we're getting calls about all types of accidents, but the most common has been car accidents. So if you or someone you know were injured in an accident that was not your fault, take that first step and give us a call. We'll answer your questions, and you'll find out if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth.
Thanks, Tom. Call now.
Thanks for joining us. Our special coverage of President Joe Biden stepping out of the 2024 race continues. I'm joined now by Rob Nelson. Huge announcement, shocking, not surprising, but Sunday afternoon, the president released a letter saying he is no longer seeking re-election.
As you all know, we just got back from Milwaukee, and really the story of equal measure during all of that week was not just Trump accepting the nomination, but what was the fate, political fate of Joe Biden. And today, Sunday afternoon, 2 o'clock Eastern, roughly, that's when he made this all official. Let's not understate it. This is a political earthquake. This election is now thoroughly upended. We should point out that he has endorsed his VP, Kamala Harris. Whether she is indeed the nominee, I still think there's a big question mark over that. And because there are some in the party that don't feel that she could win or is the best, but there's financial implications here, political implications. And again, a month before the convention and less than 4 months to Election Day. And we're talking about the President of the United States, after extraordinary pressure from within his own party, throwing his hat in the ring today and saying, I'm done, I'm out. And not in a grandiose statement from the Oval Office or from where he's been in Delaware, his home there, recovering from COVID, but a letter. And then 15 minutes after the initial letter, offering his endorsement of Harris, which was interesting timing. You think it all would have been in one. So, you know, we thought the contours of the race were settled, but we're waking up to an entirely new political reality today.
In an unprecedented situation, I mean, we haven't seen a presidential candidate step aside so close to Election Day ever. The last time something like this happened, period, 1968 with Lyndon B. Johnson, who just announced he wasn't going to seek re-election before it began in the midst of the Vietnam War. So certainly unprecedented times we continue to find ourselves in here. I want to bring in Scripps News correspondent Maya Rodriguez. She's live in Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, right where the president is staying. He's isolating there with COVID. And Maya, I understand we've also now heard from Donald Trump.
We've heard from the former president, but of course I want to start with the words of the current president. He, of course, is battling COVID as we speak. His vacation home just a couple of blocks away from where we are right now. This is Rehoboth Beach, Delaware. It's a beachside community in southern Delaware, a place where the Bidens have long had a vacation home here. It's a place where they've come to get away in both good times and bad. And it's from here that President Biden decided to release that letter to the American people. And let's take a look at a little bit of what he wrote in this very lengthy letter, to be honest with you. He said, "Let me express my deepest gratitude to all of those who have been working so hard to see me reelected." He thanked Vice President Kamala Harris. As you know, I believe today what I always have, that there is nothing America can't do when we do it together. We just have to remember we are the United States of America. Again, we have heard from former President Trump. He, of course, was going to be running against President Biden in the 2024 election. That has all been upended, as we've been discussing for the last hour or so. Here's what the former president had to say. He said, "Crooked Joe Biden was not fit to run for president and is certainly not fit to serve and never was. He only attained the position of president by lies, fake news, and not leaving his basement." The former president goes on to say, "We will suffer greatly because of his presidency, but we will remedy the damage he has done very quickly, make America great again." Of course, we are also getting some reaction from people who live here in Delaware, some long-term Democrats who have called this state, the first state as it's known, home, and a place where President Biden, of course, made his way into elected office, you know, running many, many years ago in the 1970s for the U.S. Senate. Of course, he had a long career in the Senate, and then as vice president to President Barack Obama, and then later becoming president himself. Take a listen to what two longtime Delawareans who are members of the Democratic Party had to say about this announcement. I'm sorry, we do not have that sound, but we spoke with Sally and Maria Marciano, and they told us that they welcomed this announcement from President Biden, that they thought it was the right thing to do, not just for the country, but also for himself. One of them made a reference to the fact that he could now enjoy retirement. I don't know if that's something that, you know, presidents are really able to do. Look at President Carter. I mean, he had a full career after his presidency, right? But they basically thought it was the right decision to be made, especially in light of the very shaky debate performance that we saw last month in June, where the president seemed to lose his train of thought, frankly, during some of his exchanges during the debate. So again, we will continue to gather more information, more reaction from out here in Delaware, but this is a place that the president has called home for many, many years, and a place where he's obviously seeking some comfort right now as he releases this letter to the American people and battles COVID. Rob and Alexa.
All right. Thank you so much, Maya Rodriguez. Appreciate that. Live in Delaware, where this decision has been made, as if the story couldn't get any more dramatic, as the oldest serving president ever battled COVID in his home state, he makes this extraordinary announcement this afternoon. With that, let's bring in back, I should say, Chris Whipple and Democratic strategist Dante Mills. Gentlemen, good to see you. Thank you for being with us as we kind of digest this. Listen, we all know that literally within minutes of this announcement, there are some members of the Republican Party who are now saying Joe Biden should resign the presidency. The announcement today was that I'm dropping out of the re-election campaign, meaning I will serve until, of course, noon on January 20th. Some are calling for him to step down entirely. Others are now calling for his cabinet to invoke the 25th Amendment. Do you think there is any likelihood, 20th Amendment seems unlikely, but do you think there's any chance that Joe Biden would step down? Why are they making that call? And what do you think the immediate ripple effect of this decision is? Dante, we'll start with you.
There's no chance. First, the 20th Amendment, that's not going to happen. President Biden's cabinet is behind him. I think this is more of a sign of President Biden putting America first and saying, I understand where I am physically, mentally, that to sustain that for the next 4.5 years, I don't want to put myself or the country in that position. It does not mean that he's incapable of doing it for the next 6 months. And that's what we anticipate is going to happen. He's going to stay in office. He's going to continue to govern. We're going to go into the Democratic National Convention in Chicago in a few weeks, united behind now a president who led us out of a bad place as a nation and was a very steady hand for the last 4 years, but is now passing the torch. And there's nothing wrong with passing the torch once you believe there's other people more capable, or that you yourself may not be the best person to continue the journey. So I understand that the Republicans are going to attack that way and make it seem as if it's complete chaos, seem as if President Biden is incapable of making any decision as of today, but that's not true. And in fact, he made a huge, important decision today that took a lot of courage, it took a lot of wisdom, and a lot of understanding of the situation. So my hope is that the country would look at the president as doing what a true leader would do and not saying, oh, he's incapable of doing anything else from this moment forward. But in fact, he stepped up as a true leader and made a decision for the future that will put this country in a better position.
And Chris, your take on, all of this.
Yeah, can I say, I agree with Dante. There's no chance that Joe Biden's going to suddenly step down as president. And I'll differ with him on one thing. I believe that Joe Biden thinks not only that he could have won this election, but that he could have served a second term as president. I think the decision that Joe Biden made was a cold, calculated political decision. And I'm sure it was, we're going to find out. I'm writing a book about this campaign, and so I hope I'll find out soon. But the inner circle surely had the same kind of conversation they had back in 1987 when Biden had to pull out of that race, because, having been accused of plagiarizing the British politician Neil Kinnock. What happened was that Ted Kaufman, his close friend, said, Joe, essentially, it's time. This is not going to stop. It's going to be endless. You have no chance. A similar conversation had to have happened here, and it's a courageous decision by Biden, given the fact that I'm sure he thinks he could have won this campaign. He's done the right thing. Why are the Republicans saying he should step down? That's easy. They want to cause chaos. They want to stir the pot and make this as difficult for the Democrats as possible. But I would say to that there's also a danger with complacency. We saw a scripted convention by the GOP until Donald Trump blew it up, ripped up the script, and went off on his unhinged Hannibal Lecter tangent. And that doesn't bode well for Trump.
I I want to ask you guys about the next steps, because we're in this moment right this second, but now we have to look forward. A lot of calls for different people to possibly step in and take this place. Kamala Harris, obviously the obvious choice as the vice presidential candidate, also access to funds, and the optics of not choosing her are not necessarily favorable to the Democratic Party. Is Kamala the only choice, or do you think we're going to see more infighting among the Democrats as to who proceeds with Joe Biden's place?
Personally, I think it's political suicide to open this up into some kind of cattle call where everybody auditions. James Carville is a national treasure. He's a genius. God bless him. But that idea is just nutty. An open convention is a recipe for disaster. Jim Clyburn pointed out the other day that he was at the convention in 1972 in Miami for George McGovern, which was crazy, and they wound up carrying one state. So I think it's got to be Kamala. I don't think you can take the nomination away from the first black vice president in American history and expect the most important Democratic constituency to show up in November. So I think the party will unite around Kamala Harris.
Dante, we have to take a quick break. We're going to be back in 2 minutes, because I do want to pose to you when we come back the political question of, I understand the optics of it and the importance of black voters to the Democratic Party. Everyone understands that. But they also understand this party wants at this moment to pick whoever they think can best win in November. And I'm curious as to whether you feel that is VP Kamala Harris, and the bigger question of, if this country wasn't ready for Hillary, are we ready for Kamala? And I think that's an active, live question in the country and certainly in the Democratic Party. We'll get to that and a lot more after a quick break as we continue to cover this monster political story, Joe Biden dropping out of his re-election campaign. We'll be right back.
This summer, we're in a race against time as temperatures rise. Abused and neglected animals across the country are suffering right now in the unbearable, scorching heat. They're thirsty and panting, chained outside with no water, and many are desperately trying to hang on for just one more day.
Extreme heat can have a major impact on animals, and we see that all the time. Without shade, to be without shelter, without adequate water, and basically just left out there dealing with the baking sun all day.
Will you come forward to help save an animal in distress today? Visit joinaspca.org. Call this toll-free number or scan the code on your screen to be counted for this life-saving appeal. Donate now, and with your gift of just $19 a month, you can help save an animal's life this summer. Go online, call, or scan now. It's just 63 cents a day. We will put your gift to work right away, rescuing animals who might not survive if we don't get to them soon. But the situation is urgent, and tomorrow could be too late for an animal who is suffering in the sweltering heat right now.
In my mind, 1 more hour is not acceptable. Right? These animals have suffered enough.
This is no way for any animal to live, and it's heartbreaking to imagine what they are going through. They're desperately trying to hang on, but time is running out. Your support is the help they need right now. Don't wait.
These animals have been dealing with that environment, and probably much worse, for a long time.
So visit our website, call this number, or scan the code on your screen, and donate just $19 a month. Do it in the next 10 minutes, and we'll send you this free welcome kit, including our limited edition Animal Champion t-shirt.
We cannot put an end to this type of animal cruelty without the generous support of the ASPCA donors.
If there ever was a time, this is it. So if you sign up in the next 10 minutes, we'll send you this free welcome kit, including this beautiful t-shirt, for taking action right away to save an animal's life this summer.
These animals have suffered enough, and maybe you're going to be the reason why those animals won't ever have to suffer again.
We're in a race against time to reach vulnerable animals who are barely hanging on. Help rescue an animal today. Go online, call, or scan right now.
Thanks for joining us on our special edition of breaking news coverage here on Scripps News. President Joe Biden announcing that he is dropping out of the 2024 election, announcing that he now endorses his vice president, Kamala Harris, for president. Huge announcement on a Sunday afternoon as the president is at home at his beach house in Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, recovering from COVID. Was going to meet with the Prime Minister of Israel tomorrow, Benjamin Netanyahu, a big anticipated visit between them. This all overshadowed, of course, by this huge announcement that has inexplicably changed the election as we know it. And we're just trying to digest all of this news and what this means and what it looks like going forward.
We haven't been here in a long time. Oh, I'm sorry. There's been a mic drop.
Oh, Mike, we've got a technical issue. Rob will get wired up here. But as he was saying, we have not been in a moment like this ever. We've never seen a presidential candidate drop out of the race 4 months from Election Day.
Right, less than, yeah. You know, it's remarkable. And even though it all has been kind of snowballing to this moment, when this statement came out about 2 o'clock Eastern time, there's still a shock to it because number one, Joe Biden has been around forever. And on top of that, asking the president to voluntarily back away from re-election, just from the presidential hubris standpoint of it all, is unbelievable. But then 3, up until yesterday, the message from the campaign very clearly and emphatically was, we're in it to win it. He's absolutely staying in. We're staying in. We're going to win. I'm the best choice to beat. And then boom, today. But you did get the sense over the last few days as all the Democratic Party luminaries kind of chimed in publicly and privately, from Pelosi to Adam Schiff to Obama indirectly, to Jamie Raskin, Hakeem Jeffries, Chuck Schumer. They were all taking turns at bat, going to Biden and saying, we don't see the path here. And even though he was resistant in some of those meetings, reportedly, at a certain point, there's a level of pressure that no politician can withstand. And the thinking was that if the goal is to beat Trump, then you have to do whatever's necessary to ensure that victory. This is the biggest gamble possible, but it's the moment we're in.
Certainly a gamble, and we want to bring in our Scripps News' Maritza Giorgio. Maritza, you're collecting reaction pouring in right now. I mean, I know we've heard from Donald Trump, but who else are we hearing from at this point reacting to this breaking political news here?
Yeah, you know, I think we're just hearing from so many people, and I want to talk about the timing here. This is something that one of our bookers, Tara, was saying as we heard rumblings over the weekend that this might happen, and really thinking, well, when would he do it? And the speculation, well, he'd do it after all the Sunday news political shows, and sure enough, here we are. So I think what we're hearing, I'm seeing a lot of praise from Democrats that he is dropping out. And then on the other side, we are seeing suddenly instant calls for President Biden's resignation from here in Montana, where I am, Senator Steve Daines, Senate hopeful Tim Sheehy. So this is going to be a big battle moving forward now. All of a sudden, everything's shifted. But I think I heard one analyst say that they predict the Democrats are really going to gather around Kamala Harris because that's the only option here forward for them. If they have a ton of divide and infighting with only 4 months to go, that's not a good look either.
Maritza, to that very end, what just came in is a statement from former President Bill Clinton and Secretary Hillary Clinton that reads as follows. President Biden has capped his extraordinary career of service with a presidency that has lifted America out of an unprecedented pandemic, created millions of new jobs, rebuilt a battered economy, strengthened our democracy, and restored our standing in the world. By any measure, he has advanced our founders' charge to build a more perfect union and his own stated goal of restoring the soul of our nation. We join millions of Americans in thanking President Biden for all he has accomplished, standing up for America time and time again, with his North Star, always being what's best for the country. And then they add this. We are honored to join the president in endorsing Vice President Harris and will do whatever we can to support her. So just as we saw the rock stars and power brokers of the Democratic Party kind of get together to get Biden to this decision, now I would assume what we're going to see from those very same people is perhaps an effort to now coalesce around Harris, because with the clock ticking, there needs to be, one would think, there needs to be some kind of unity. But at the same time, there's folks who say, let's go to Chicago 1 month from today and have an open and broker convention, and whoever's left standing is our nominee. That seems a lot more risky and a lot more suspenseful, but there's some who think that should be the path here. But already, just from the statement from the Clintons, you're seeing people now get behind VP Harris, as Biden himself did in a separate statement 15 minutes after the initial I'm dropping out announcement. So we expect this reaction to continue to pour in.
Yeah, it was a really interesting, as you pointed out, kind of a two-part statement from Biden. The initial letter, and then later on the tweet endorsing her, the post on X rather, endorsing Kamala Harris specifically. We had heard reports that the Clintons were still privately trying to help Biden, get donor money to Biden in the last 48 hours or so, but there was no official endorsement by them. So, and again, another sign of the crack and fracture in his campaign re-election strategy. Maritza Giorgio, we thank you. We'll check back in with you. Dante Mills, Democratic strategist, we want to bring you in. Want to go back to Rob's question. Is it Kamala? Is that the best choice? And if it's not, does that spell trouble for the Democratic Party to not rally behind her?
And I'll ask it more bluntly. Is America ready for a black woman as President of the United States?
I think America could be ready. But in a twist, I don't know if that black woman is Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris does not really resonate with enough of the Democratic Party, I believe, to cross that finish line and win the election. I mean, the polling is out there. It's been done. She would not, in a lot of key states, she's not polling higher than Donald Trump in their head-to-head matchup. You also talk about who she will be paired with. People are talking about Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, cabinet member Pete Buttigieg. I don't know if those combinations are enough. I also know that the way our politics work in America, not a lot of people get two bites at the apple. So if we're talking about going into the convention and opening it up for other candidates, I don't know if a candidate who's on that bubble of being a presidential candidate would want to waste their attempt on this cycle, because they're only going to have a couple of months to campaign. They're not going to have the full time to get support behind them to fundraise. And a lot of people are saying, I don't want to use my time on this cycle because it's too rushed and uncoordinated. So where does that leave the Democratic Party if other people don't want to do it and you don't think Harris can win? I think the strongest candidate would be Michelle Obama. I think she has the support around her. She has the obviously the name recognition that would go a long way, where you don't have to spend a lot of time building up your brand and who you are so the American people can know it. See, we are invested in politics. I look at it all the time, so I know the ins and outs. I know who Josh Shapiro is. Most Americans don't. So when you talk about any other candidate, you have to introduce them to America and to the world. So you have to start with somebody that's known. And if it's not going to be Kamala Harris because she doesn't poll well, I think the only other alternative would be Michelle Obama, because she has, again, that name recognition. She has the support behind her. Right. It would really excite the party to move forward.
And Dante, let me just not push back, but let me kind of dig in on 2 points there. If there's one thing that Michelle Obama has been emphatic about for a very long time, she wants no part of this. She had her fill for 8 years with her husband as president. She has said in the bluntest possible terms, don't look over here. I'm not the one. I want. I think the quote was, you have to be crazy to get into politics, is what she has said publicly. So that is kind of a fever dream by the Democratic Party. That ain't going to happen. But she said something interesting a second ago, and I think it's a really valid logistical point about this cycle. And people saying, well, no, I'm already starting a handicapped race because you're giving me no time. And I'm doing this in the wake of this historic pullback by Biden. And no. But again, that doesn't line up, because the Democrats' main argument is that Donald Trump is a threat to democracy. Donald Trump was at the heart of an insurrection that tried to overdo the last election. So that answer of yours makes all the sense in the world, but it assumes another normal election cycle in America. And I'm not quite sure Democrats feel that that will be the case if Donald Trump is reelected, perhaps with control of Congress also in his pocket, as well as a very unpredictable conservative supermajority Supreme Court. So what the next cycle looks like in 2028 is open to some interpretation, my friend.
I agree with that to an extent. I have to believe in the checks and balances in the American system, and there are things set up. I understand the concern because former President Donald Trump attempted not to leave office the last time. So if he gets back into office now with more knowledge and experience about the things not to do or things to do in order to stay there, it makes it more likely. And I understand that completely. But we have to believe in our system. And also we have to, if we have that belief, we have to put forward who we think is the best possible candidate to win. And that's where we look at, and I know for Michelle Obama said, you know, not in a million years, but I also know that as of yesterday, President Biden said he's staying in the race, right? So there's a lot of things that's said publicly until that decision is made, and then there's a pivot. I also know that one of the things and the concerns for Michelle Obama was the campaign cycle, which is very, very, it's a long process, it's grueling. Now there's a shortened process where you don't have to go through that whole process of a year and a half of the campaign trail, which is the grueling part. She already understands the presidency life. So that is, it's an angle that kind of may bring her back into the fold. But if we're looking for stopping Donald Trump from becoming president, you have to move forward with who you think is best to win. And a lot of these candidates, I've had some conversations that say, if I'm handicapped in this race, I would only have a couple of months to introduce myself. Early voting is starting soon. Mail-in ballots are starting soon. Yeah. They just don't think they're going to have enough time to pull a campaign together.
Hey, Dante, we've got to put a quick pause on you because we've got to take a quick break. Sorry, we've got to pause. We're hitting a break here, but stay with us. We'll continue to discuss this historic announcement by President Joe Biden. He is not continuing his bid for re-election. Stay with us here on our Scripps News special coverage.
Look at you. You're doing everything you can to get your blood pressure in check. You're exercising, you're eating right, and now you have Super Beets Heart Chews by Human on your side too. Paired with a healthy lifestyle, Super Beets Heart Chews polyphenol compound is 2 times more effective at promoting normal blood pressure, which means more energy, better circulation, and blood pressure support that is easy and convenient. In a leading clinical study, Super Beets Heart Chews polyphenol compound was shown nearly 2 times as effective at promoting normal blood pressure as a healthy lifestyle alone. So double your potential with Super Beets Heart Chews by Human. Just 2 delicious pomegranate berry chews a day support nitric oxide production, healthy blood pressure, blood flow, and heart-healthy energy. Plus, they're plant-based and gluten-free. What are you waiting for? Join the millions of people that have put Super Beets blood pressure support supplements to the test. Get a free month's supply plus free shipping on all bundles at superbeets.com.
Do you have difficulty hearing your TV? Or have trouble hearing conversations? Then you would benefit from Nano hearing aids. Other hearing aids are expensive and cost thousands of dollars. But if you call now, you can get 2 Nano CIC rechargeable hearing aids for only $297. Don't be fooled by overpriced hearing aids ever again. The Nano CIC rechargeable hearing aid is a true hearing aid, not an amplifier. And they offer superior noise reduction and a tiny in-the-ear design that is nearly invisible. And best of all, they are incredibly affordable. Call now and get 2 Nano CIC rechargeable hearing aids for only $297 or opt into our payment plan of 4 easy interest-free payments. Plus, if you call now, we'll add a portable charging dock and your shipping is absolutely free. The Nano hearing aids come with outstanding lifetime customer support and a 45-day money-back guarantee. Supplies are limited, so you must act now.
Call 1-800-450-2129. That's 1-800-450-2129.
All right, welcome back, everybody, on this extraordinary Sunday afternoon. It's about 3:30 Eastern time. We did learn just about 90 minutes ago You've already heard, I'm sure by now, this kind of news spreads like wildfire, rightfully. Joe Biden bowing to pressure and bowing out of his re-election campaign. We're learning that he literally told his senior staff literally a minute before he told the world that he was not going to seek re-election. Obviously, he, in a later statement, minutes later, he endorsed VP Harris. We'll see how much weight that carries. As you can imagine, reaction from the political world pouring in, including from Donald Trump, who sent out a message on social media, just once again, just raking Joe Biden over the coals, calling him the worst president ever, not fit to serve now, was never fit to serve. So we're hearing that, but there had been reporting too in recent days that this was a fear of the Trump campaign, that they just spent a week in Milwaukee, obviously tearing into Biden's record, which you would expect, but now they don't know who their opponent is. It seems like it'll be VP Harris, but again, that's not a guarantee. So coming off the heels of that convention and not knowing who your opponent is as a guarantee puts that campaign in a very interesting spot. They wanted Biden because they felt that he was so beatable, and now he's jumping out. So it is at the same time shocking and not. But either way, the political landscape of America has just been upended today.
Yeah, and the cascade really began with that debate performance that shocked a lot of people and really started the kind of mutiny among the Democratic Party that, we thought these people were Joe Biden faithful, and it kind of comes out of the woodwork that they're not. In just the last few minutes, Nancy Pelosi, who was one of those people who had called for an open convention, called for Joe Biden to make a decision, released this statement saying, quote, "President Joe Biden is a patriotic American who has always put our country first. His legacy of vision, values, and leadership make him one of the most consequential presidents in American history. With love and gratitude to President Biden for always believing in the promise of America and giving people the opportunity to reach their fulfillment. God bless America with Joe Biden's greatness and goodness."
And yeah, let's be clear, none of this probably would have happened or gotten to this point without Nancy Pelosi's involvement, not just watching the White House race, but the potential down ballot effect on the Congress that she has been a part of for so long, and fearing not just a Trump White House, but a completely red Congress as well. She was one of the ringleaders of this effort, and here we are. With that, let's bring in Jeffrey Engel. He's the founding director of the Center for Presidential History at Southern Methodist University. Jeffrey, pleasure to talk to you as we all digest one of the more extraordinary political moments we have lived through in recent years. Is it now officially fair to say that debate here a few miles down the road from where we are in Atlanta was the single most calamitous debate performance in the history of presidential politics in this country?
I think that's exactly right. I think we already knew that it was the worst debate performance in American history, at least on television. And now, of course, as you point out, now it's the most consequential, the most impactful. Joe Biden now joins a very short list. I was trying to think of the number of presidents in American history who have voluntarily given up power. Obviously, the list starts with George Washington. James K. Polk in the 1840s decided that he was not going to seek a second term. And then the list gets pretty short of presidents who had the opportunity to run again and did not do so. Lyndon Johnson, of course, in 1968, though he obviously was already president for 5 years at that point. But it really strikes me that Joe Biden has done what the founders really wanted in some sense, reluctantly, I'll grant you, in that he decided that ultimately he needed to put the nation's interest ahead of his own political interest.
And we talk a little bit, Jeffrey, about the fallout that we've seen historically when these presidents in the past have chosen not to seek re-election. Did their party continue with success? Did their party take the White House in the preceding election, or was that an opportunity for the other party to seize on?
It's certainly an opportunity for the other party to seize on, but we also have something else that's really unusual, unprecedented in the mix. Now we have a former president who wouldn't attend the inauguration of his successor, now running for president again, who didn't believe that he lost the election. So there's a sense in which I would love to tell you that there's nothing more important than studying history to understand what it is we're going to see next. But this is one of those times where I say, there are wild cards on either side. And I think this is a great example of how we're going to look back on Joe Biden's decision, ultimately, not based upon his decision, but we're going to judge it based on what happens ultimately in the election that he's not a part of. Because if Kamala Harris wins, obviously people will say, well, good for Biden. Historians will say, good for Biden. He stepped down and his successor took over. If, on the other hand, Donald Trump wins, there's inevitably going to be historians who say, well, a Democrat other than Biden would have done better, or rather a Democrat would have done better if they had had more time to run in this race. So ultimately, this is a very difficult decision, bordering on an unprecedented decision for a president. And from a historical perspective, we're not going to know how this one is going to be viewed until well down into the future, long after Joe Biden has left the political scene.
That's such a brilliant point. Thank you for making it, because if the Democrats pull this out in November, and it's an uphill climb, to put it mildly, they look like geniuses on this day. Biden all the way down. Look, they called. All they do is switch. If they lose in November, which is entirely possible, it's almost like you've lost twice. You kicked out the former guy to put in a new ticket that lost as well. So that is why this feels like such a gamble. You said a phrase a second ago that struck me, and it's still odd that it does strike me. You used the phrase, voluntarily give up power, which is what Joe Biden has just done this afternoon. And the opponent in the race was at the heart of an insurrection to not give up power. That split screen in American politics is striking. And I wonder if you think that was part of the decision-making process to, on his way out, draw yet another contrast with the man who wants to replace him.
You know, I would have to presume so. I don't know President Biden personally, of course, so it's just a presumption. But, you know, if you think about the story that he told getting into the election in 2020, that he did so because he thought that Donald Trump was enough of an existential threat to the democracy of our country to bring him out of retirement. It was only Trump, and especially in response to Charlottesville, as President Biden tells the story, that brought him back into the race. And I've long wondered at this point, if Trump was not the nominee, which again, nobody in their right mind would have thought would be the case in January of 2020. At the inauguration of Joe Biden, there was nobody except for Donald Trump who thought Donald Trump would be the next nominee. At that point, I think President Biden may have really been considering himself only having one term. But ultimately, if he thought that Trump personally was the threat, then and we can understand in essence why he wanted to stay in longer. Perhaps he always intended this to be one term, but history gave him more options, or forced upon him more options.
Jeffrey, we want to stick with you and continue this conversation. We've got to take a quick break here on Scripps News. We'll be right back to continue this.
At Consumer Cellular, we pride ourselves on getting you the exact same nationwide coverage as the leading carriers for up to half the cost. But don't worry, we've got a lot more than that going for us. Woo! Like this beautiful store in Arizona, for example. It's the perfect place for me to tell you a little bit more about our phones and how they can become your phones. You name it, we probably got it. We have the top smartphones from all the major companies. If it's state-of-the-art cameras you want with space-age metal housing, we got them. If you want a smartphone with lots of bells and whistles but won't break the bank, we've got that too. We even have flip phones like the Iris Flip. If you're someone that doesn't need all that mumbo-jumbo and just wants something simple. And now, we even have watches.
We do.
No matter what device you choose, you'll be happy to know that if your data needs change,
no problem.
With our SmartFlex feature, you don't have to sweat it. Like say you're on a road trip out west and end up using a bunch of data. We can simply flex you up to the next data tier for as little as $5. Then, when you get home, you can flex right back down with no penalty, so you only pay for what you actually need.
With Consumer Cellular, you get the exact same nationwide coverage as the leading carriers for up to half the cost.
I know what you're thinking. What if I don't have one of these amazing stores in my town yet? Can I get these phones sent to me?
Yes, you can.
Will our award-winning customer service help me switch over or add a line for $15 to make my own family plan?
Of course they will.
Is it easy?
Easy as pie.
You see that tower out there? It's a beauty. And there are thousands more like it, working hard for me and you, supplying 5G coverage to this beautiful nation of ours. We know how important coverage is. That's why we offer a risk-free guarantee. If you're not satisfied within 30 days of activation, you can pay nothing. Oh, look.
New customers who buy any phone get 2 months of service free when they sign up by July 31st. Call 1-800-485-8390 or visit consumercellular.com to switch today.
She knows what she's talking about. Pick up the phone.
This is you. You've written a book. Congratulations. You're a writer. But wait, to be a true author, you have to actually publish your book. So the next step is to find a publisher or agent that shouts it out to the world that you're a real author. This is where we come in. Discover Publishers will help you find the right publisher to edit, illustrate, print, sell, distribute, and promote your book. We will match your needs with our list of qualified publishers and agents to find the right fit. And the best part, it's completely free. We connect publishers with writers just like you. We put you in the driver's seat as publishers rush to your door to get your book in bookstores. Publishers have specific strengths. We know them and will find the right ones for you. Don't run all over town. Make publishing houses come to you. DiscoverPublishers.com gets you free access to the leading publishers in the industry. Fast.
Call for your free publisher kits, 800-570-3208, and find the right publisher for your book. That's 800-570-3208, 800-570-3208.
We continue with our breaking news coverage. President Joe Biden ending his 2024 re-election bid, making that announcement from the picture you see there, Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, where his family has long had a beach home. He's there isolating himself, recovering from COVID-19. He's been sick for several days. That's a picture of his home there in Rehoboth Beach, Delaware. Our correspondents out on the ground say he's been getting Paxlovid. He's improving, still has a slight cough and a hoarse throat, but he made this bombshell announcement just before 2 p.m. Eastern that he would not be continuing in the race, and that a few minutes later, after that initial letter released on social media, he announced he would be endorsing Kamala Harris as vice president to succeed him.
And now the big question, how does the party proceed in the wake of this news? The party was reportedly bracing for this moment, starting to get some preliminary things in motion here, but now it's real. So number one, Biden endorsed Harris. So does everyone else follow suit, or do they take another route? Are we headed for a brokered or open convention in Chicago? If it is VP Harris, who is her running mate? And how do you balance out what you kind of have to in politics? It would be the first black woman ever to be at the head of the ticket in this country. So you can make certain guesses as to who may be a running mate in that sense. So there are a lot of urgent questions on the table. What does this race look like now? But we know the world is different than it was 2 hours ago. With that, we bring in Jeffrey Engel, founding director. We want to bring in Maritza Giorgio, our colleague Anchor of America tonight. Oh, Jeffrey, we're back with you. I apologize. Oh, no, we're with Maritza.
Musical chairs here.
You can tell it's breaking news here, but you're watching GOP reaction to all of this. You might as well start with Donald Trump, because the statement was as gracious as Trump always is with his vanquished opponents. So why don't we start there?
Yeah, Rob, is that directed toward me? I just want to be sure.
Yes, it is.
So here's my takeaway from the Trump response here, is that he accused Biden of retaining that office, of getting that office through lies and cheating. And so, again, we're going back to this idea that, the big lie of 2020. So I think that will be the focus moving forward. But we're already seeing the GOP kind of scramble here. And I mentioned this when we were in Milwaukee this week at the RNC. You hear a lot of chatter, just washing your hands in the bathroom. Everyone's talking. Everybody's speculating about what's going to happen. And there was one woman who was staunch Donald Trump supporter in the bathroom who said, I heard Joe Biden dropped out. Is that true? And at that point I said, no, he did not drop out of the race. And she said, well, I hope he stays in because it's better for us, better for the MAGA movement. She said, I really fear that it's going to be Michelle Obama and then we'll totally lose. Now, as you mentioned earlier, there's no way that Michelle Obama will run.
And Maritza, let me jump in here. Let me jump in here, because speaking of the Obamas, now we have an official statement from President Obama that I'm just getting. I'm going to try to do what I can to get through what I think are the most interesting parts. He leads with this: Joe Biden has been one of America's most consequential presidents, as well as a dear friend and partner to me. Today, we've also been reminded again that he's a patriot of the highest order. Then he goes on to say, 16 years ago, when I began my search for VP, I knew about Joe's remarkable career in public service. But what I came to admire even more was his character, his deep empathy and hard-earned resilience, his fundamental decency and belief that everyone counts. Since taking office, President Biden has displayed that character again and again. He helped end the pandemic, created millions of jobs, lowered the cost of prescription drugs, passed the first major piece of gun safety legislation in 30 years, made the biggest investment to address climate change in history, and fought to ensure the rights of working people to organize for fair wages and benefits. Internationally, he restored America's standing in the world, revitalized NATO, and mobilized the world to stand up against Russian aggression in Ukraine. More than that, President Biden pointed us away from the 4 years of chaos, falsehood, and division that had characterized Donald Trump's administration. Through his policies and his example, Joe has reminded us who we are at our best, a country committed to old-fashioned values like trust and honesty, kindness and hard work, a country that believes in democracy, rule of law, and accountability, a country that insists that everyone, no matter who they are, has a voice and deserves a chance at a better life. This outstanding track record gave President Biden every right to run for re-election and finish the job he started. Joe understands better than anyone the stakes in this election, how everything he has fought for throughout his life and everything that the Democratic Party stands for will be at risk if we allow Donald Trump back in the White House and give Republicans control of Congress. I also know Joe has never backed down from a fight. For him to look at the political landscape and decide that he should pass the torch to a new nominee is surely one of the toughest of his life. But I know he wouldn't make this decision unless he believed it was right for America. It's a testament to Joe Biden's love of country and a historic example of genuine public servant, once again putting the interests of the American people ahead of his own future. Generations of leaders will do well to follow. For now, Michelle and I just want to express our love and gratitude to Joe and Jill for leading us so ably and courageously during these perilous times and for their commitment to the ideals of freedom and equality that this country was founded on.
Whew. That was a long statement there. I noticed no immediate endorsement of Vice President Kamala Harris. Did you?
And I'm looking to see if I missed that. You're right, it is a long statement, and I am not, on first glance at this, seeing Harris or endorsement or Kamala or any of the key words as I scan this for the first time. And again, the reason I think that that statement in full is important is because, of course, Obama made Joe his VP and had a role in where we are today. Let's bring back Jeffrey Engel for a second to digest all this news as it's coming in. Jeffrey, it was well known that some say that the Obama-Biden bromance was a little overstated, that there's been friction for a few years after he felt Obama nudged him out of 2016 to let Hillary run, and obviously we know how that went. What do you make of this statement, and what role you think Obama may have played in some of this, and then to release this very praise-filled statement today?
Boy, it is really interesting, isn't it, how the bloom comes off the lily over time. That, of course, by 2015, they were the best of friends. After 2016, there was tension over the nomination of Hillary Clinton. And now it appears that, at least according to some reporting, that President Biden was among the voices urging Joe Biden to step down. And I think that's actually really important because Joe Biden still has a role to play in this election. You know, the sitting president is extraordinarily influential, especially when their vice president is running. Ronald Reagan, for example, gave a lot of support to George H.W. Bush. Bill Clinton did not give a lot of support to Al Gore in 2000, largely because Al Gore did not want that support, Bill being, of course, still hindered by the scandal of his own. But I'm actually reminded of President Eisenhower and Richard Nixon. Remember, Nixon was never Eisenhower's favorite. Nixon was the young guy. Nixon was the person that the old man was passing the torch to. But Eisenhower really didn't trust Nixon as a human being, frankly. Maybe he was very prescient about that. And he was asked, Eisenhower, at one of his press conferences, you know, Vice President Nixon keeps saying that he was a key advisor to you on foreign policy and that you relied upon him constantly. Can you give us some examples? And Eisenhower, you know, pondered for a moment and said, if you give me a couple weeks, I'll get back to you. And what that did was really undermine Nixon's argument that he was a critical and ready player for the Oval Office. So I'm curious to see if President Biden can keep that support and enthusiasm for his support for Vice President Harris going.
And Jeffrey, I'm so sorry, we've got to take a quick break here. I hope you'll hang with us because we've got a lot more questions due, a lot more to unpack, especially when we talk about what's coming next. The DNC just about a month away. So stay with us here on Scripps News. We will be right back after a quick break.
there's a better way to begin your mornings.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Morning Rush. Thanks so much for being with us.
Context and conversation.
This next story, we were talking about this earlier today.
Get the stories that will shape each day.
Here with us now is meteorologist Scott Withers. We got just wave after wave after wave.
So you can get on with yours.
So make sure you stay with us as we keep an eye on this developing story for you.
Morning Rush. Weekday mornings starting at 7/6 Central. Only on Scripps News.
Cars look great when they're new, but fade over time. With Cerakote, it's easy to restore your vehicle to look like new again. Restore cloudy headlights with Cerakote's Headlight Restoration Kit. Wipe away faded and oxidized trim with Cerakote's Trim Coat. Get unsurpassed shine and slickness with Cerakote's Rapid Ceramic Paint Sealing. Make your tires look better than new with Cerakote's Tire Coat. Cerakote's #1 selling family of products have over 40,000 5-star reviews and are available for under $20 at these leading retailers today.
Back pain. When you've got it, you know it. Introducing the X-Back from CopperFit, our groundbreaking technology designed for compression support of your lower back and core like you've never experienced before. Engineered with our most innovative, patent-pending, advanced X compression system, the X-Back evenly distributes the support across a broader surface area of your back for relief of lower back aches and pains.
The new belt is fantastic. I feel a bigger area of support. Immediately, there was something different about this.
A super lightweight mesh fabric, ventilated for unmatched breathability to increase airflow and release excess heat.
You have to try it. You haven't felt anything that's going to give you the kind of support and relieve the back pain that you have, because it is unbelievable.
Our copper-infused fabric, made with the most advanced materials for superior support and lighter than air comfort.
It's just relaxing all that tension that you get.
Wow. Oh, that feels great.
I've tried a lot of belts in the past. Nothing like this.
I have a history of back issues, man, and this is really hard to believe what I'm feeling right now.
An orthopedic-designed alloy support panel and 4 built-in flexible stabilizers to help improve alignment and promote better posture.
Usually when I have long triathlons, there's pain. With the belt, there's absolutely no pain. For me, it was like, okay, is this really happening? I really haven't felt anything like this before.
The all-new X-Back from CopperFit, the most effective, breathable, customizable support for relief of lower back pain you will ever wear. Guaranteed or your money back. Get yours now at getxback.com for only 2 payments of $29.99 or call 1-800-511-9587. Order right now and your shipping is free.
This is by far the best support that I have found.
You feel like, you conquered the world, and it's life-changing.
The all-new X-Back from CopperFit. Feel the difference.
Welcome back to special coverage here on Scripps News of President Biden ending his 2024 re-election bid. You're looking live at pictures of the president's home in Rehoboth Beach, Delaware. That's where he is right now, isolating with COVID-19. In just the last couple minutes, we got a statement from the DNC chair. He said in part, quote, "The work that we must do now, while unprecedented, is clear. In the coming days, the party will undertake a transparent and orderly process to move forward as a united Democratic Party with a candidate who can defeat Donald Trump in November. This process will be governed by established rules and procedures of the party. Our delegates are prepared to take seriously their responsibility in swiftly delivering a candidate to the American people."
No one knows what this process is going to look like. And you asked me an interesting question a minute ago, and I apologize to viewers for not getting to it. I read everything but the one line. We did get a statement from President Obama, not Michelle, just President Obama, and this may make the most headlines. He praised Biden lavishly and then said this: "We will be navigating uncharted waters in the days ahead, but I have extraordinary confidence that the leaders of our party will be able to create a process from which an outstanding nominee emerges." So yes, you heard that right. It was not, unlike Biden, an endorsement of VP Harris, which I'm sure also people will dissect what that means and why.
Certainly, and Nancy Pelosi also wanted to call for an open convention and call for a more open process instead of just endorsing Vice President Kamala Harris. Having someone else aside from VP Harris is a whole host of discussions.
Yes.
Campaign financing, optics, not going with the second in command. What does all of that bring? But the big question, who is the best to beat Donald Trump? We want to bring Jeffrey Engel back in, founding director of the Center for Presidential History at Southern Methodist University. Jeffrey, Talk about what you think comes next. What has to come next? Do Democrats need to rally behind Kamala Harris, or is it possible for success for them to do an open convention and have all these names thrown out there?
And why did the first black president not endorse the potential first black female president? Because that's what the politicos are going to chew on right now.
That part is actually really amazing. I don't have any evidence on that one yet, but I'm curious about the answer. I'll tell you, I'm really reminded of something that the famous humorist Will Rogers said from the 1930s. He said, "Remember, I'm not a member of any organized political party. I'm a Democrat." And therefore, it's really traditional for the Democrats to be, if you will, the party of a little bit more mayhem. Now, I have to say, I actually think either going with the vice president or having a contested convention can work out just fine if the party emerges from that convention unified, if the party emerges that convention behind one candidate. It's entirely possible that they could get together and throw this thing open to debate and throw this thing open to numerous ballots and come out stronger in the end. I mean, has certainly been the case throughout history. Woodrow Wilson is a good example of that. Abraham Lincoln, actually, now I think about it, is somebody like that who did not go into the convention thinking that they were going to become the nominee, and then the party rallied behind them. But no matter which choice they choose, I think they need to make sure that whatever happens, they can get together for their common purpose, which is getting their nominee reelected.
And in related news, AFL-CIO, powerful labor group, released a statement applauding President Biden's decision, calling him the most pro-labor president in history, which is how Biden also describes himself. Praised VP Harris in that statement, but did not endorse her, saying they would, quote, convene soon to discuss our next steps. So for all the talk about Harris, I think it's our duty to point out it ain't a done deal. And what exactly comes next and for whom is very much an open live question.
Yeah, absolutely. We talked to a Democratic strategist earlier who said he's been part of the calls of what exactly happens next, those details, figuring out the rules. And because we are in uncharted territory, they have to figure out what this actually looks like and kind of make those rules. Jeffrey Angle, we thank you so much for your discussion and insight today. We're, of course, going to be sticking with this here after a quick break here on Scripps News. But Jeffrey, we appreciate you and thank you for your time.
Yeah, really important discussion. And there's a lot of, again, can't reiterate how many open questions there are right now. We are continuing, obviously, to keep an eye on the aftermath of all of this, the political world responding, as you might imagine, in droves right now from both sides. And we want to bring that all to you as we kind of digest this really remarkable and unsettling moment that we are in presidential politics in this country. There's a lot to get to. We have a full docket of guests coming up. Our reporters, as you can imagine, are ending their weekends early to come join us here as we all get through this and try to understand it together. Either way, folks, it's a fascinating road to November, and it all got upended today. Scripps News continues after this.
Stay tuned to get an all-new Bell & Howell Bionic floodlight for 50% off. Last year, over 100 million packages were stolen. Worse yet, over 500,000 homes were broken into. The party's over, porch pirates and prowlers. This is the Bionic solar floodlight from Bell & Howell. It showers a massive 1,000-foot area of ultra-bright light all the way from your house to the road or the whole backyard. Plus, it's solar-powered, so it's free to operate. When prowlers approach, the motion sensors activate and bam! They go bye-bye. Plus, it expands your outdoor living space, making yards, patios, and walkways brighter. This next-generation solar-powered light features 120 high-intensity LED bulbs on 3 separate adjustable panels, delivering multi-directional light. It installs in seconds anywhere. No wires. Or stake it in the ground and customize the panels anywhere you want light. Look, your lights are too weak. But watch. Bam! That's Bionic light power. Check out the difference before and after. Which home looks safer to you? The Bionic floodlight is the ultimate security light standing guard up to 25 feet, keeping your family safer. And no more critters getting in your trash. Now there's plenty of light to scare them away. It'll light up your life when you pull into a bright driveway and enjoy more outdoor living space with bright, beautiful light. Folks, the Bionic floodlight delivers safety and style. Look at this yard before and after. It's a night and day difference. Some outdoor solar lights sell for over $150, but you can get the Bionic solar floodlight from trusted Bell & Howell for just $29.99. And we'll even ship it to you free. Order right now and get a second Bionic floodlight at 50% off. And it all comes with our Bell & Howell 5-year warranty. The demand has been huge, so don't wait or you can miss out. Order right now.
To order, call 1-800-306-6568 or go to bionicfloodlight.com. So call 1-800-306-6568. That's 1-800-306-6568 or order online at bionicfloodlight.com.
All right, everybody, welcome back. It's 4 o'clock Eastern time on this Sunday. By now, you've heard this seismic news. President Joe Biden will not run for re-election. There is a lot to get to. We're trying to break it all down here because this entire election season has now been flipped. Thanks for being with us. I'm Rob Nelson, and look who now has also shortened their weekend.
I just couldn't wait till tomorrow morning, so I said, you know what, why not start the fun early? I thought the last week was so busy for you, you might as well just keep it going.
I thought after we just covered the convention in Milwaukee, it'll be chill for a little while. No.
I will say, though, you guys talked to a mega donor last week and the week before, and he said that it would be a gangster move, those are his exact words, if Biden did this now.
Exactly.
So it's no surprise, but it is a surprise at the same time.
Because it upends the Democratic side, but also now what kind of campaign do Trump and Vance have to run when their opponent is a question mark, at least at this hour. It was a momentous and stunning announcement by President Biden. It really was. We can't really overstate that point. And again, uncharted waters. We don't know where this thing is going, and November's going to be here like that for 3.5 months, roughly, and more urgently, the Democratic Convention in Chicago, a month away, where this has to come to a head one way or the other.
Yeah, so also we know that he has endorsed Vice President Kamala Harris to replace him atop the Democratic ticket. The 81-year-old said stepping aside is in the best interest of the Democratic Party and the nation, but he will remain in the White House until his term ends in January. Now, his decision concludes a remarkable period in American politics. The sitting president has faced calls from prominent members of his own party to step aside as doubts grew about his mental and physical fitness to defeat Donald Trump in November and to serve another 4 years. We mentioned those donors that have just kind of been dropping like flies over the last several weeks. For that reason as well. And so now I also saw there was word that donors are now pitching back in and saying, hey, we're going to throw our money behind whatever person you put up there.
Exactly. There was that jarring New York Times headline week and a half ago saying 90 million had dried up from donors unless Biden stepped aside. And look, politicians of either any stripe, if the money gets funny,
I gotta go.
You see change. You see change. All right. As you can imagine, all of us here at Script News kind of buckling up and want to bring you the latest here. We're going to start now with our White House correspondent, Haley Bull. You were in that press conference just days ago with Joe Biden. All eyes were on that. How would he do? How would he perform? And now days later, of course, it came to in an inevitable, in some ways, still shocking in others, moment where after 2 p.m. today, or surely around 2 p.m., he bowed out here. What are you learning? What are you hearing? And where the hell is this election now?
Yeah, Rob, certainly a stunning moment after 4 weeks. President Biden has dug in, his campaign publicly insisting that he was staying in the race and not wavering from his decision to do so. As in the background, there were whispers and reports about what the future path forward for him in his reelection effort would look like. And as more Democratic lawmakers and donors continue to call on him to step aside in this race. This after a decades-long career within Delaware as a senator, vice president, and his presidency. This afternoon, Democrats and his allies are lauding his service and decision in this regard, some calling it a selfless decision. But on the flip side of this, Republicans are certainly seizing on the moment and calling for him to step aside from the office. For example, Congressman Mike Turner stating, quote, President Biden's cabinet must take immediate action and determine if he is capable to govern for the remainder of this year, while Senator Mullen calling for the 25th Amendment directly, stating, quote, if Joe Biden is unfit to run for re-election, he is unfit to carry out his term. 25th Amendment. Now, this is a line that we have heard from Republicans going back several days now as the doubt swirled around Biden's re-election effort. We have seen no answer or evidence that the cabinet is pursuing this in this regard. As a reminder, when it comes to the 25th Amendment, it stipulates that when the vice president and a majority of principal officers of the executive departments let the congressional leaders know their written declaration that the, quote, president is unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office, the vice president shall immediately assume the powers and duties of the office as acting president. Again, these are Republican calls, something we have seen them do long earlier in the Biden administration. There is no indication that that is happening, but when you look at the political back and forth here, that is where this conversation is headed on the Republican side tonight. Meanwhile, for the Democrats, the big question is what happens next, what the next steps are. Of course, Biden pointing to Vice President Kamala Harris. The question is if the Democratic Party can rally around her or if others try to pursue this path forward now. Rob, Alex.
That's such a fascinating GOP response because just intellectually, there's a difference between saying, I can't win re-election versus I'm no longer up to serving. Those are two very different things, whether we're talking about resignation or the 25th Amendment, which was also under discussion at certain points during the Trump administration as well. Hale, are you hearing anything, before we let you go, about, obviously this was snowballing for days and days and days, and this almost seemed inevitable, and here we are. Was there anything particular about today? Was there a final straw? Was there a final phone call? Was it him and Jill sitting by the fireplace in Delaware? Are we learning anything about why on a Sunday afternoon, 2 o'clock, Biden said, yeah, pull the trigger?
Well, that is certainly the big question, because for days there had been a sense of defiance from the Biden-Harris campaign. As recently as Thursday, the campaign dismissing the notions that President Biden was teetering on his decision to press forward in his re-election effort. But behind the scenes, there were certainly media reports trickling out indicating some uncertainty. But today we are reaching out to campaign officials, White House officials, other allies and supporters to get a sense of what happened today. What we do know is after the Republican National Convention ended, we continue to see that stream of Democratic lawmakers grow to over 35, calling for him to step aside. Biden had previously indicated he wasn't bowing to that pressure. So what went on behind the scenes there? What led to this? That is something we're certainly going to be asking still going forward, Rob.
What a moment we are in. All right, Haley Bull, thanks for, again, saying to all of our colleagues here, thanks for ending your weekend short and giving us some time. I have a feeling we all know the big story for today and for the foreseeable future. Thank you. Appreciate it. We'll check back in with you coming up in just a minute here.
All right, joining us now from Rehoboth Beach is in Delaware is Scripps News correspondent Maya Rodriguez. Maya, good afternoon to you. I'm so used to saying good morning, but good afternoon. What is the mood like there? I know that Rehoboth Beach is not an area that you necessarily know where everyone is going to congregate when it comes to the media, because it is so spread out and it is kind of a neighborhood. But what is the mood there and what you're seeing?
Well, we're just a few blocks away, frankly, from where President Biden has his vacation home here in Rehoboth Beach. We have been talking to voters out here as they make their way to the beach, which is just over my shoulder beyond those dunes. Of course, this is a place where President Biden often comes to get away from the Beltway, all of the goings-on that happen in Washington, D.C. This is a place where he and his family sort of step back and try to relax. But today, it is where this bombshell announcement came that he would not be seeking re-election for the presidency. Now, we did speak to some Democratic voters out here, some longtime Delaware residents. Take a listen to what they told us about the president's decision today. Well, Sally, first of all, you just heard that President Biden will be not seeking re-election at this point. What was going through your mind? What are your thoughts?
I think that at this time, it's the right thing for the Democratic Party. As a native Delawarean, he has done so much for our state and as president for our country, but now is the time to step aside.
What makes you say that?
The most recent debate and things coming to light and tensions within the party. It's time to move aside and do what's best for our country. And I think that he's put the country above himself and his needs.
What about you, Maria?
Really, exactly what Sally said. I love Joe. I think it's really cool that we have a president from our home state. I love everything he's done for us. It's fun to watch the cavalcade come down the streets and stuff like that. But I think Joe should just enjoy his years, and that's that.
Did you come to this conclusion at a certain point in time? If so, what brought you to that conclusion?
Yeah, I think, like Sally said, I think it was the debate, and I think that, as he's losing support in the party, I think that's a big thing, too. Like, the goal is to win the presidency, and I don't think he's the guy to do it right now.
Who do you think should step in his place?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know who should step in. I don't know if it's Hillary, if it's Michelle Obama, if it's Kamala. Whoever it is, I think that we'll totally support them.
What about you, Sally? Do you have an idea of who you would like to see step in?
Senator from Pennsylvania. We have a couple options, and I think they all have the party's best interest at heart. And so whether it's female or male is not relevant. It's what's best for the nation and what's best for our party, and we will get there.
And I'm assuming that you're both Democrats based on what you've just told me.
Yes, correct. Absolutely. My whole life, I voted for, as a native Delawarean, I voted for Joe since I was legal to vote.
Senate, yeah.
Is there any message you would have for the president at this point?
That we love you and support you, and we welcome your homecoming when you're back to Delaware full-time.
Any message for the president?
Thank you. Thank you for what you've done. Thank you for reuniting us after a couple years of really tumultuous times. And yes, thank you. And I look forward to seeing you around town.
At this point, we have no idea how long the president will be remaining here in Rehoboth Beach. White House officials have said that is still being decided, but we do know that he is going to address the nation, he said in his letter, later this week. Back to you guys.
All right, Maya, thank you. And I just want to read part of Vice President Kamala Harris's statement that she released.
Minutes ago, right?
Yeah, minutes ago. On behalf of the American people, I thank Joe Biden for his extraordinary leadership as President of the United States and for his decades of service to our country. His remarkable legacy of accomplishment is unmatched in modern American history, surpassing the legacy of many presidents who have served 2 terms in office. She goes on to say it's been a profound honor to serve as his vice president. And then later says, I am honored to have the president's endorsement, and my intention is to earn and win this nomination. Over the past year, I have traveled across the country talking with Americans about the clear choice in this momentous election. And that is what I will continue to do in the days and weeks ahead. I will do everything in my power to unite the Democratic Party and unite our nation to defeat Donald Trump and his Extreme Project 2025 agenda. She finishes with this line. We have 107 days until Election Day. Together, we will fight, and together, we will win.
My intention is to earn and win this nomination. So that's the first statement from VP Harris on the day that her life certainly had a dramatic turn. We will have much more coverage on the other side of this break, including a new statement from the RNC as well, responding to this upended campaign. We'll be right back.
This summer, we're in a race against time as temperatures rise. Abused and neglected animals across the country are suffering right now in the unbearable, scorching heat. They're thirsty and panting, chained outside with no water, and many are desperately trying to hang on for just one more day.
Extreme heat can have a major impact on animals, and we see that all the time. Without shade, to be without shelter, without adequate water, and basically just left out there dealing with the baking sun all day.
Will you come forward to help save an animal in distress today? Visit joinaspca.org. Call this toll-free number or scan the code on your screen to be counted for this life-saving appeal. Donate now, and with your gift of just $19 a month, you can help save an animal's life this summer. Go online, call, or scan now. It's just 63 cents a day. We will put your gift to work right away, rescuing animals who might not survive if we don't get to them soon. But the situation is urgent, and tomorrow could be too late for an animal who is suffering in the sweltering heat right now.
In my mind, 1 more hour is not acceptable. Right? These animals have suffered enough.
This is no way for any animal to live, and it's heartbreaking to imagine what they are going through. They're desperately trying to hang on, but time is running out. Your support is the help they need right now. Don't wait.
These animals have been dealing with that environment and probably much worse for a long time.
So visit our website, Call this number or scan the code on your screen and donate just $19 a month. Do it in the next 10 minutes and we'll send you this free welcome kit, including our limited edition Animal Champion t-shirt.
We cannot put an end to this type of animal cruelty without the generous support of the ASPCA donors.
If there ever was a time, this is it. So if you sign up in the next 10 minutes, we'll send you this free welcome kit, including this beautiful t-shirt for taking action right away to save an animal's life this summer.
These animals have suffered enough, and maybe you're going to be the reason why those animals won't ever have to suffer again.
We're in a race against time to reach vulnerable animals who are barely hanging on. Help rescue an animal today. Go online, call, or scan right now.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Continuing our coverage now of President Biden dropping out of the 2024 campaign just about 2.5 hours ago, roughly here East Coast time. Let's get more now with Casey Bergen, Assistant Professor and Program Director of Legislative Affairs at George Washington University. Casey, thank you for spending part of your Sunday with us as we all digest what this really means going forward. The bottom line is, as you know, Biden out. Harris says she is running. Some high-profile politicians and donors are immediately kind of circling around her. Others are not. So it's an open question. What should we expect in the next 72 hours from the Democratic Party that you think will shape what happens November 5th?
The question is, what part of the Democratic Party? And the names you're not seeing right now are leading to more questions than answers, right? We are transitioning. While we kind of expected it, it was a little inevitable, but surprising at the same time that President Biden dropped out. Then he endorses Kamala Harris, but she has 0 delegates attached to her name, right? She was not on any primary ballot. She did not win any votes. She is, as of right now, at the same starting place as everyone else in the Democratic Party who wants to be president in terms of getting that nomination. So now it's about coordination. She's obviously presenting herself as running. That's great. Now it's about coordinating behind the scenes and even a little bit publicly about getting support committed to her when that convention comes next August. But other candidates may be willing and wanting to do that too. And so they're reaching out, they're making calls to delegations and state and local leaders to say, where's your support at? Do I have your support going in? And if they have enough of that, where you might see a challenge to Kamala Harris, otherwise we're going to see everyone fall in line behind her. But right now we don't have those answers yet.
And if there is a challenge, one part of Vice President Harris's statement was, my intention is to earn and win this nomination. Whatever that looks like ahead of the DNC, that is to be seen. But if there were to be a challenge, who do you think would garner that support from donors, garner that support from the Democratic Party, and could maybe shift in instead of Vice President Harris?
It's the same names we've been seeing the last couple of weeks when this conversation started to pick up steam. The potential replacements, and obviously VP Harris is at the top of that list by virtue of her being VP. And then you got the Gavin Newsoms, you've got the Gretchen Whitmers, right? The dark horse candidates in Wes Moore out of Maryland, all of these Democratic leaders who folks to have their own levels of support in their particular regions or demographics, and we just don't know how broadly they are supported. And even if these folks want to enter in a race, that way it will be contested now that we have at least official statement from Kamala Harris that she is running. And so that would lead to an internal fight that they've been trying to move on from since President Biden has had that disastrous debate. But we just don't know how public those fights are going to spill out if those candidates actually declare themselves as willing and able to challenge her.
Well, considering how public the battle was to push Biden out, you have to think that, you know, the rodeo's on and they're all going to do whatever they have to do. Yeah. Let's assume that it's Harris. Big assumption. What kind of politician around the country do they have to pick as her running mate, perhaps to soften the edges of the first black woman to ever be at the top of a ticket?
So first of all, I think that there's going to be a genuine relief turned excitement within the Democratic Party that's likely to spill out into the independents who couldn't believe we had another Trump versus Biden round 3 battle royale. And now there's going to be another chance to pick that nominee. But assuming that it is Harris, there's going to be some discounts against her, well-earned or otherwise. That she's the first Black female president, potentially, of Asian descent. She's facing a lot of uphill battles, at least historically. And then she has geographic marks against her, too, right? She's from California, which was already in the Democrats' column, no matter who runs in the election. And so she's looking to round out her ticket with someone that can add to the electoral college map for her. Someone like Shapiro from Pennsylvania, potentially Whitmer herself up in Michigan. Those states we know are swing states come November, no matter who's running on the Democratic side.
In that line, we should point out, too, that there's some reporting from Politico out there now suggesting that what may have led to today, partly, was that Biden saw a poll from Michigan, a critical state, suggesting he was down to Trump at 7 points. And that may have been the final number to go, I got to bow out. So, a governor from a battleground state you would think would be high on the list.
And there were some polls as well leading up to this that showed Vice President Harris performing better in a hypothetical matchup against Trump than Biden did. And so I'm sure that kind of played a role in this too. But I want to ask you about her approval rating, 38.6, according to 538's latest polling average, as being a potential concern for Democrats should she be the replacement. If she is, how does she do when it comes to the actual voters and getting them out to the polls? Because we heard Nikki Haley all along the campaign trail when she was still in it saying a vote for Biden is a vote for Harris. And so if she's telling her voters that, and others believe that in this election as well, that vice presidents were very important because of the ages of the presidential nominees, how does she fare now that she could potentially be the next president or on the top of the ticket?
Man. 38% is tough. I mean, from the classroom, that's an F-, and in politics, that ain't good either. So she faces an uphill battle, too, which probably factored into the president's consideration of whether to step back at all, and even if to endorse her if he did, and obviously he did. Because it's really hard to change people's minds about your approval, right? We all know that your first impression is the most important one. And people have their first impression of Kamala Harris. She is not a new entity, maybe to some, but not the general electorate who knows who she is and has become familiar with her. And so, again, she's facing a lot of historical markers. Just history suggests that women have a tougher approval ratings process. From California, which has been demagogue, she is a perfect Fox News candidate in that she represents a lot of what their viewership fears about the Democratic Party and where they want to go. Can she change that? Maybe. It's going to take a lot of money and a lot of time to do it, two of things which she's chasing. But it's going to be a real uphill battle that she's going to have to really lead into and recognize and take it head on.
George Washington University assistant professor Casey Burkett, thank you so much for getting some time. And of course, now the big question, when's the first time she gets in front of a camera now that she is going to go for this nomination? We don't know yet, but we certainly will bring it to you when it happens.
All right, our special live coverage of President Biden's withdrawal from the presidential race will continue in just a few moments.
Why is America paying attention to the race?
Because what happens in this town happens to your town, too.
Here on the steps of the U.S. Capitol after a historic...
The decisions made in this house are felt in the heart of yours.
Every night on the race, we take you to the people, policies, and the political points of impact.
We want to add some context around it tonight.
The Race, weeknights at 6/5 Central, only on Scripps News.
Helping families with mesothelioma is all we do. Our firm has been offering a free book on mesothelioma for over 10 years. Since that time, thousands with mesothelioma have trusted us to represent them against those responsible. We have local offices throughout the U.S. Mesothelioma really is all we do, and there is no risk to you. Let us put a plan in place for you and your family. Call now.
Call us at 800-642-9300 or go to mesobook.com.
Hi, I'm John.
Hey, I'm Janine. I'm Steve, and I've been a consumer cellular customer for 8 years. 3 years.
11 years.
When they asked me if I want to be in a testimonial commercial,
I said sure.
I said sure. I said sure.
But I got a tournament to get ready for.
Not if the fish are biting.
But it's a beautiful day. We started looking for another provider primarily because we felt like we were paying way too much.
I chose to switch because of the savings. It was amazing, way cheaper than where I was.
I could hardly believe that my bill was so small. I'm paying less than $30 a month. It's a great service for a great price.
Unlimited talk and text with flexible data plans starting at $20. Plus, for a limited time, buy any phone and get 2 months of service free.
The place that I live in is heavily forested. There's a lot of trees. What got me to be a customer, really, to tell you the truth, was the reception and the coverage of Consumer Cellular.
I travel a lot. I need coverage, no matter where I am. And so whether I'm in Augusta, Georgia, or Pebble Beach, California, I know that I'm going to be covered with Consumer Cellular.
I love to go faraway places, remote places. I haven't had trouble with coverage, no drop calls.
Consumer Cellular offers fast, reliable nationwide coverage. Plus, for a limited time, buy any phone and get 2 months of service free.
When we switched over from Verizon to Consumer Cellular, it was a really painless process.
Just kept the same phone. I kept the same number.
Anytime I call customer service, it's U.S.-based.
It's nice to know when I have an issue that I can have a real conversation.
Customer service has been great. I just get a bill at the end of the month. It's on auto pay, and it's super easy.
And as AARP members, we also get a nice discount.
That's right. AARP members receive a 5% discount. Make the switch now to the most awarded brand by J.D. Power. New customers who buy any phone get 2 months of service free when they sign up by July 31st.
Call 1-800-381-2297
or visit consumercellular.com to switch today.
All right, today, as you already know, today marking a real extraordinary and historic moment in American politics as President Biden drops out of the 2024 race.
Yeah, the president immediately endorsed Vice President Harris as a Democratic nominee, and the reactions of the president's announcement are pouring in from fellow politicians and world leaders as well. So let's bring in Alexa Liaco with more on what we're hearing online. Hey, Alexa.
Hey, so really mixed reaction as far as who's coming out right away and endorsing Kamala Harris. By and large, the Democratic Party are all praising, members of the Democratic Party are all praising Joe Biden for doing what was right for the country, stepping aside. But we've heard from lawmakers on both sides of the aisle on this. As we just reported, Vice President Kamala Harris just released a statement. I want to read part of it here. It says, in part, on behalf of the American people, I thank Joe Biden for his extraordinary leadership as President of the United States and for his decades of service to our country. His remarkable legacy of accomplishment is unmatched in modern American history, surpassing the legacy of many presidents who have served 2 terms in office. She goes on to say in her statement that she's honored to have the president's endorsement and that her intention is to earn and win the nomination. Now, of course, within moments of this announcement, former President Donald Trump released his own statement on Truth Social. In part, he said crooked Joe Biden was not fit to run for president and is certainly not fit to serve and never was. He only attained the position of president by lies, fake news, and not leaving his basement. We will continue to follow. We've got a lot more reaction from Republican and Democratic governors across the country. We will bring that to you soon. Alex and Rob, I'll send it back over to you.
And already making news on that front, the Clintons releasing a statement endorsing VP Harris. President Obama, not including Michelle, releasing a statement and endorsed the process, not Harris.
Right.
Fascinating. That will be dissected big time over the days ahead. We will have more coverage coming up after this break.
Stay tuned to get an all-new Bell & Howell Bionic floodlight for 50% off. Last year, over 100 million packages were stolen. Worse yet, over 500,000 homes were broken into. The party's over, porch pirates and prowlers. This is the Bionic solar floodlight from Bell & Howell. It showers a massive 1,000-foot area of ultra-bright light all the way from your house to the road or the whole backyard. Plus, it's solar-powered, so it's free to operate. When prowlers approach, motion sensors activate and bam! They go bye-bye. Plus, it expands your outdoor living space, making yards, patios, and walkways brighter. This next-generation solar-powered light features 120 high-intensity LED bulbs on 3 separate adjustable panels, delivering multi-directional light. It installs in seconds anywhere. No wires, or stake it in the ground, and customize the panels anywhere you want light. Look, your lights are too weak, but watch. Bam! Bam! That's Bionic light power. Check out the difference before and after. Which home looks safer to you? The Bionic floodlight is the ultimate security light standing guard up to 25 feet, keeping your family safer. And no more critters getting in your trash. Now there's plenty of light to scare them away. It'll light up your life when you pull into a bright driveway and enjoy more outdoor living space with bright, beautiful light. Folks, the Bionic floodlight delivers safety and style. Look at this yard before and after. It's a night and day difference. Some outdoor solar lights sell for over $150, but you can get the Bionic solar floodlight from trusted Bell & Howell for just $29.99. And we'll even ship it to you free. Order right now and get a second Bionic floodlight at 50% off. And it all comes with our Bell & Howell 5-year warranty. The demand has been huge, so don't wait or you can miss out. Order right now.
To order, call 1-800-306-6568 or go to bionicfloodlight.com. So call 1-800-306-6568. That's 1-800-306-6568 or order online at bionicfloodlight.com.
Welcome back to Scripps News special coverage of President Biden's withdrawal from the 2024 race for the White House. I'm Alex Livingston.
And I'm Rob Nelson. President Biden shocking the political world just before 2 p.m. Eastern time this afternoon with this announcement. It had been snowballing, but still, when it came, it was a thunderclap in American politics.
Absolutely. We're covering a historic day that upended America's 2024 presidential campaign. President Biden dropping out of the race weeks after a disastrous debate performance that he really couldn't seem to shake, no matter how many events passed by, no matter how many interviews and unscripted moments passed. There was long-standing doubts about his age and an ability to serve another 4-year term in the White House. At 81 years old, he will remain in the White House until his term ends in January.
Indeed. Keep in mind, he's only 3 years older than Donald Trump, so people were like not pleased with either choice. A large swath of Americans, the double haters as they're now called, but now everything's different. Here's what we do know for sure. President Biden endorsed his vice president, Kamala Harris, to replace him at the top of the Democratic ticket. Several other prominent Democrats have followed suit, including some big-time Democratic donors, and believe that's important as well. Included in the Harris endorsers today, most notably, former President Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton as well.
Harris issued a statement that said she intends to, quote, earn and win this nomination. No other Democrats have announced plans to seek the nomination so far, and attention is focused on potential running mates for Harris. The Democratic National Convention, of course, that is just a month away. Rob and I are going to be there in Chicago, and the election is November 5th. 107 days, which she says at the end of her statement, we have 107 days until Election Day. Together we will fight, and together we will win.
The New York Times putting it like this, the big picture. Never in the modern history of American politics has a candidate who swept through a party's presidential primaries abandoned his campaign so close to a national convention. There is no precedent or historical record to consult, and the party's rules are not always clear on the details of what will unfold next. As we said, President Biden has endorsed VP Harris to be the new nominee at the top of the ticket. For more on this, we go to congressional correspondent Stephanie Liebergen. Stephanie, good afternoon.
Hey, Rob and Alex, good afternoon. Well, it was the statement from the vice president, of course, that we were all waiting for. What exactly is she going to say? And as you've mentioned, we are all going to be waiting to see how she reacts when she gets in front of those cameras for the very first time. She is here in D.C. after having a campaign event yesterday. But I want to get to the end of her statement. She first applauded the president and his administration, but it was at the end that I think is the most important part, where she said, I am honored to have the president's endorsement, and my intention is to earn and win this nomination. Over the past year, I have traveled across the country talking with Americans about the clear choice in this momentous election, and that is what I will continue to do in the days and weeks ahead. I will do everything in my power to unite the Democratic Party and unite our nation to defeat Donald Trump and his extreme Project 2025 agenda. There, as you mentioned, the vice president promising that she's going to do the work. She knows she needs to do the work to get the support of not only the Democrats who will be needed and the delegates needed to give her the nomination officially, but she'll also need to earn the vote of Americans across the country. And that's something that she, in her statement, says that she is up for doing. But there are still, as you've mentioned, so many questions about what exactly comes next, how the Democrats go about officially replacing the person on the top of their ticket, how that person does against former President Trump, how whoever her vice presidential pick hypothetically would do against the Republican vice presidential pick, J.D. Vance. So there are far more questions than we have answers for right now. But as you've noted, opinions and statements and reactions are clearly flooding in, including one from the Republican vice presidential candidate, J.D. Vance. In his reaction, he said, Joe Biden has been the worst president in my lifetime, and Kamala Harris has been right there with him every step of the way. Over the last 4 years, she co-signed Biden's open border and green scam policies that drove up the cost of housing and groceries. She owns all of these failures, and she lied for nearly 4 years about Biden's mental capacity, saddling the nation with a president who can't do the job. President Trump and I are ready to save America. Whoever's at the top of the Democratic ticket, bring it on. That sentiment from J.D. Vance about putting some blame on Vice President Kamala Harris for hiding, allegedly, President Biden's mental ability to stay on top of the job. That's something we've seen a number of Republicans complain about. Another one, Senator Mike Lee, I was just looking at his reaction on X and on social media, talking about putting some blame on the vice president for hiding, they claim, what was really going on with President Biden. So, as I said, a lot of things just flooding in, and we are trying to kind of take in as much information as we can, trying to figure out exactly what the path is forward for Democrats.
It's so fascinating. The most powerful and influential politicians in the country right now may be the Democratic delegates who will be there in Chicago a month from today. It seems like a lot is in their hands, and that's why there's a drama to this now that we don't know how it's going to play out. So, Stephanie, thank you very much for that. We're going to check back in with you throughout the extended newscast today.
Yeah. All right. Let's get to Deputy Political Correspondent Joe St. George. Both the RNC and DNC releasing statements earlier. What do you have for us?
Yeah, certainly. Good afternoon. One thing about this story snowballing really since the debate in Atlanta in late June is that both sides are a bit prepared, or at least the Republican side is, from a media standpoint, as to how to go forth with this. And that's why we're seeing these statements come out at such a fury and such a high clip. Let's start with the Republican National Committee. Keep an eye on them. They may be the ones suing over things like where does the campaign money go, suing over things like ballot access. But they sent a statement out this afternoon saying that President Trump will win this election because he's the only person who will rebuild our southern border, restore our economy, and secure our standing in the world. Every single failure we've seen from Joe Biden, the Afghanistan withdrawal, a border crisis, crushing inflation, and America weakened abroad, has been delivered hand in hand with Kamala Harris. So note how the RNC is already, and we're just, 2 hours or so into this, already pivoting into attack mode to go after the Vice President of the United States. Let's pivot, though, to the DNC, because their rules, their chairman, as Rob mentioned, the delegates that will attend their convention is really story 1, 2, 3, and 4 on this Sunday afternoon. The statement from DNC Chair Jamie Harrison: the American people owe President Biden an enormous set of gratitude for the unparalleled progress that he has delivered over the last 4 years, and we will honor that legacy. That's a familiar tone in all these statements. Praise to Joe Biden for stepping aside. But the most newsy part of this statement was the work that we must do now, while unprecedented, is clear. In the coming days, the party will undertake a transparent and orderly process to move forward as a united Democratic Party with a candidate who can defeat Donald Trump in November. This process will be governed by established rules and procedures of the party. Our delegates are prepared to take seriously their responsibility in swiftly delivering a candidate to the American people. Emphasis on swiftly. So to get our viewers caught up as to what the process is now, we know when the convention is. It's August 19th. It's not necessarily, that's when it begins in Chicago, as Rob and Alex have mentioned throughout our coverage. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be settled in Chicago. It's certainly possible it could be settled in Chicago, but there are rules in place that allows for a nominee to be essentially confirmed, if you will, made official prior to the start of that convention. In fact, the big news that a lot of us here at Scripps News were talking about prior to this breaking news story on this Sunday was, well, were the Democratic delegates, was the DNC going to confirm President Biden before the convention in Chicago so that they wouldn't have a potential mess on their hands? So the entire country, guys, now looking to see what happens next and who endorses Vice President Harris, right? We're keeping an eye on the governor of California, governor of Michigan, governor of PA, these big names. But a historic Sunday afternoon, no doubt, guys. We haven't had this since 1968 when President Johnson decided to not seek re-election.
And thank you for that hit, Joe, because I know there's other sexier stuff. When we get down to a lot of consequential mechanical issues, what can the delegates do? Where does the money go? What's the ballot access state by state in those rules? It's going to be a civics lesson, another one for the country, but it gets into a lot of tedious stuff, but is of huge important consequences. Thanks for kind of breaking those elements down.
I remember having experts on Morning Rush who said, hey, I get you may want a different candidate and a different person there, but there are so many things that have to fall into place and have to work, and the timing of everything too is so important as well, because TikTok, we gotta go, right? And so there's a long list of things that need to fall into place in order for this to happen. We're gonna take a quick break. We'll be right back.
I'm Jonathan Lawson. If you're 50 to 85, I have an important message about security. Write down the number on your screen so you can call when I finish. The lock I want to talk to you about isn't the one on your door. This is a lock for your life insurance, a rate lock that guarantees that once you're insured, your rate can never go up at any time for any reason. But be careful. Many policies you see do not have one. But you can get a lifetime rate lock from Colonial Penn. Call this number to learn more. This plan was designed with a rate lock for people on a fixed income who want life insurance that fits their budget and is simple to get. Coverage options start at $9.95 a month, less than 35 cents a day. Act now, and your rate will be locked in for life. It will never increase, guaranteed. This is lifelong coverage that can never be canceled as long as you pay your premiums, guaranteed. And your acceptance is guaranteed, with no health questions. You cannot be turned down because of your health. Call for your information kit and read about this rate lock for yourself. You'll also get a free beneficiary planner. Both are free with no obligation. Don't miss out. Call for information, then decide. Read about the 30-day 100% money-back guarantee. Don't wait. Call this number now.
Call now and you'll also get this free beneficiary planner. Use this valuable guide to record important information and your final wishes. And it's yours free just for calling. So don't wait. Call 1-800-440-9900 for your free information. That's 1-800-440-9900. There's no risk or obligation. That number again is 1-800-440-9900. That's 1-800-440-9900. So call now.
Hi, Grandma. I played baseball today.
Oh, that's great.
What position did you play?
First base.
That's what Grandpa used to play.
When our hearing wouldn't allow us to use a regular phone, it made us feel isolated.
It became difficult to communicate with our friends and family.
Clear Captions was an easy solution for us.
Clear Captions provides captions on a phone like captioning on your TV, so you can see what the caller is saying live as they say it.
Making it easy to understand and respond immediately.
There is no insurance or Medicare required. Clear Captions service is provided at no cost to you through a federally funded program. We deliver, install, and train you on how to use your phone, all at no cost to you.
Give your loved ones the independence and connection they deserve.
Call now to see if you qualify to get a Clear Captions phone at no cost to you. Call 1-800-732-6029. That's 1-800-732-6029.
Welcome back, everybody. Joining us for more on our breaking news here, political analyst and author Rich Rubino. Rich, thank you so much for giving us some time. I'm sure devouring the news like the rest of us are, trying to make sense of this crazy country of ours. Uncharted water sounds trite, but it's just amazingly true in this moment. What do you think really pushed Biden over the edge to pull this trigger today? And what is your gut sense of how his replacement gets picked? Is the party going to go with Harris, do you feel like, or are we headed toward a broker convention in Chicago in a month?
Well, the first thing that came to me beyond Lyndon Johnson in 1968 announcing he wouldn't seek re-election was in 1974, when with the case of Richard Nixon and Watergate, you had Senator Barry Goldwater, then you had Senator Hugh Scott, and you had Congressman John Roach from Arizona, the minority leader, went to him in the Oval Office and said, basically, it's over. They said, if this comes down to an impeachment, you're likely to be impeached, and you're likely to be convicted in the Senate. Barry Goldwater said, you don't even have my vote. So what happened subsequently is he announced he would not. He announced he'd resign the next day. That's kind of what I thought. And when I was thinking about this time around, you had Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi. And one thing Nancy Pelosi understands is that she's a great tactician of American politics. And I think she knows that many down-ballot candidates were trepidatious of having Joe Biden on the top of the ticket and having the candidates having to be asked in a debate by the Republican opponents, do you support Joe Biden as a Democratic nominee? And I also think what was really telling was John Tester from Montana, who represents a state that went 16 points for Donald Trump last time, and Sherrod Brown from Ohio, who represents a state that won 8 points for Donald Trump last time, both up for re-election, both absolutely critical to the Democrats in their hopes of winning the Senate. They both announced that they wanted somebody else on the top of the ticket. They were fearing that Joe Biden would be on the top of the ticket. Now, in terms of the question, in terms of Kamala Harris, she certainly is the front runner, but I would not discount some of the governors. If Democrats looking for a strategic pick, I would think the two governors that come to my mind would be Gretchen Whitmer of Michigan and Roy Cooper of North Carolina. Generally speaking, if you've been battle tested, you can actually get elected in a swing state. In the case of Governor Cooper of North Carolina, then I think that you show that you inoculate yourself from the criticism that you're kind of an out there too far liberal. Looking for some of the senators, you can look at Raphael Warnock, senator from Georgia, who's also a preacher of the same church Martin Luther King Jr. preached at, and you can look at so there are plenty of people that you can look at around the country. But my guess is that a governor would probably be one that you would probably have to look at.
We have a month until the Democratic National Convention, 107 days until Election Day. Of course, states beginning to early vote in September. What do you make of the timing of his announcement coming right after the Republican National Convention, and how much time is left to do all of the things that need to be done in order to have someone new at the top of the ticket?
I think Joe Biden genuinely believed he was going to be the nominee, he was going to be elected president. If you go back far enough, I think most of the Democrats believe that as well. That's why the only elected official that challenged Joe Biden was Dean Phillips, who basically said that he was making the case that he was too old, that it was time to pass the torch. But Joe Biden won 14 million votes, and I think he thought that up until that debate, I think he really legitimately thought that he was going to be the nominee. And actually, I think I think it benefits the Democrats, though, that they did go through the process of having Joe Biden the nominee and having Donald Trump excoriate Joe Biden. Now, if you had somebody who's outside Washington, that playbook goes by the wayside. That person can say they're running against the brain-dead politics of both parties. They can run against the Republican and the Democratic Party. I don't think Vice President Harris necessarily has that. But remember, you're defining somebody, and that person did not go through a primary challenge. Now, on the one hand, that means that they haven't been battle tested in terms of having 7 or 8, 18 other candidates going after them. But it also means that there's going to be a unified party that's going to be monolithically are going to support that person, in part because there's really no hard feelings on the part of delegates or Democrats who supported a different candidate in the primary. So that, I think, really benefits whoever the nominee is going to be, especially if it is somebody from outside of the Beltway.
We live in interesting times. Political analyst and author Rich Rubino. Rich, we have to move on just for now, but we definitely want to come back to you later in the show. Thanks so much for giving us some time and some really important insight. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Greatly enjoyed it.
Well, news of President Biden exiting the 2024 race, not just sending reverberations in the States, but all around the world. International correspondent Ollie Barrett joins us live from London with reaction overseas to this massive development. Ollie, good afternoon to you. So what has the reaction been from world leaders to what happened here today?
Well, we're getting a lot of reaction now from world leaders. If we start here in the UK, the new Prime Minister Keir Starmer, who was in Washington only a week or so ago to meet with President Biden at the NATO summit, he has put out a short statement saying that he respects President Biden's decision. He says, "I look forward to us working together during the remainder of his presidency." Keir Starmer goes on to say, "I know that as he has done throughout his remarkable career, he'll have made his decision based on what he believes is best for the American people." Keir Starmer, of course, as the UK Prime Minister, has to make sure that whatever message he sends about Joe Biden doesn't get interpreted as being too involved in US politics, given the election campaign being underway in the United States. Rishi Sunak, the former UK Prime Minister, talked about working with Joe Biden, saying, Rishi Sunak, "I saw firsthand his love for America and his dedication to service. And Rishi Sunak also points to what he says were significant achievements when Rishi Sunak and Joe Biden were working together. He says AUKUS, the security pact, and also steadfast support for Israel and joint efforts, goes on Rishi Sunak, in defending our people from Houthi threats. We've had tributes being paid by the Scottish First Minister, John Swinney, who says that Joe Biden, among other things, made a powerful contribution at the COP26 climate summit in Scotland. James Cleverly, the former Foreign Secretary, talks about the pleasure he says it was meeting President Biden while he was Foreign Secretary, and says, thank you for being a great friend to the UK. We have heartfelt thanks from Israel's President Isaac Herzog. In a statement, he talks of Joe Biden's friendship and steadfast support for the Israeli people over his decades-long career. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz has also put out a short statement saying that Joe Biden achieved a lot for his country, for Europe and for the world, and he talks about transatlantic cooperation being close thanks to Olaf Scholz, says Joe Biden. We've also been hearing a word from the Kremlin as well, that they're going to be waiting and seeing what comes next.
What happens in American politics without
Inevitably.
hyperbolic affects the world and gets a reaction. And certainly have to believe where the state of the world is right now. As you alluded to, clearly there, Israel, Gaza, Ukraine, Russia, watching all of this probably most intently today. Ali Barrett live on the ground for us in London.
Good, how you doing?
Trying to be very on top of it now. Things to learn. Yeah, I hadn't in a long time.
Right. You want me to like spell my name and stuff?
Yep, we'll have you do that. Everyone good? All right, team, let's go. Come on up.
Thank you.
All right, just look at me or this direction. Ignore the camera. Say your name and spell it. Hi.
Josh Lambert, Josh Lambert. You say the title. I'm the IC of the St. Louis Fire.
All right, what can you tell us?
Today we utilized engines, hand crews, and helicopters on the fire. There has been minimal smoke and fire behavior. I'm optimistic we'll make progress on the fire and the fire will not grow in size. Resources worked in from the perimeter, working with helicopters to eliminate heat. The fire is mapped at 204 acres. We're waiting through the afternoon work to assess containment. Between resources on scene and ordered, we have approximately 200 personnel assigned to the fire. We'll have present on the fire with both the night and day shift. We're going to reassess the evacuation status continuously with law enforcement. This has been an interagency effort. I'd like to thank the responding resources, and I'd like to thank the public for abiding by our closure orders. And I'd like to turn it over to Brian Trick, our PIO, for any questions.
All right, let's help you with this.
Double A's?
I'm gonna unput all of them. Yes, no problem. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
No problem. Yeah, I'm just gonna unput all of these guys. Can you get that one?
Yeah.
Can I clip this one back here? No personal space.
Thank you.
Let's clip these guys on. Okay, so this is very short. Short and sweet. I like it. I got the easy job. Okay, we have one more.
Sorry. No, you're fine. You're fine.
Sorry, who said was screaming it? Screaming it live? Was it Casey?
Okay. I think. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
That'll work.
It makes sense to put it on this side of the sheet on. That is quite the setup. Okay, I'm just gonna tuck these in.
Go for it.
Okay, we got a lot of mics on there. How's it sounding for everyone?
You guys hear me?
Yep,
Everything
sounds
good?
good on my end, yeah.
Sorry for reaching down. There we go.
Okay, on that wood chip there.
There we go.
Say your name and spell it, please.
So I'm Brian Trick. Brian Trick. I'm the Public Information Officer for the Type 3 team.
Okay, what can you tell me about your efforts today? What's it looking like up there? I know it's steep, rocky terrain, tough for your crews. They were going all night. Talk about that.
Sure. Yeah, so today we're fortunate to get the resources that we ordered. So we have engines and crews and 3 helicopters kind of working in tandem to be able to just really pinpoint the areas that we want with a lot of heat and really engage it and try and put it out in that regard. We've got folks on kind of either flank of the fire, and the idea is from the perimeter, working inward, just putting out the heat, any heat we find. That'll progress throughout tomorrow and so forth until we really feel that we're confident and we have it contained.
How have all your crews been holding up? Any injuries or even heat-related injuries going on?
Sure, so none reported right now. Yep, but certainly a concern. Fortunately, a lot of folks are kind of used to the heat. They know hydrate and all that good stuff, and they're in good physical shape, but nothing so far as injuries, so we're thankful for that.
Can you go on over kind of the response last night? I mean, did things go how you guys were kind of hoping that they would go? I know you had a lot of dealing with the wind shifting and things like that.
Sure. So yeah, an initial response is always kind of organized chaos. The Salt Lake did a great job as far as engaging, and then when we as a team came on, they did a great job of transferring command, giving us an update, and helped us form kind of the plan for today and going forward. Yeah, again, I would also like to add that the public did a great job of abiding by the evacuation order. It really helped us get resources in there. We had the roads to ourselves, which really helped as far as access and being able to get on there and engaging the fire.
How close did any of the flames end up getting to homes?
So a half mile is the closest that it got. Yep, and so we're thankful for that again, that it did stop. And today you can see kind of no smoke, so we're pretty confident that those lines held. So we're still saying a half mile from residents.
And you guys, what's containment at? Do you have a percentage, or has that been a little tricky?
So it's been a bit tricky, but what we do is we're still at 0% contained. And with the operational shift today, what that allowed us is for the folks on the ground to not only engage the fire, but to be able to report back to us as far as what they were able to accomplish, what it looked like. Then in the evening, we'll assess kind of the progress that we made, how we're feeling about if that line is going to hold, if it has any probability of moving and growing. So tonight I will probably update containment, but right now we're still at 0% containment.
And just on that, like 0% containment, I know homeowners were hearing that, but just like a lot of confusion. But right now you feel homes are safe.
Yeah, we would say that because there was no growth today on the fire, that we are feeling very confident. We certainly don't want to make any promises, but yeah, we're still holding at 0% contained. 0 is not always a great number, but it allows us to just be able to be confident when we do tell you a number that then the public knows that we're pretty confident that nothing's going to happen.
Cost?
Still unknown at this time. Yeah, we do have we ordered an investigator. They today arrived on scene. They're undergoing their investigation, but we haven't heard back, so we are calling it unknown.
Is there a evaluation on the evac notices?
So that'll be this evening. Again, yeah, when fire crews do come back off the line and we get our overhead together, we'll be able to assess. So yeah, no real input right now as far as lifting. We will say that as soon as possible, that's what we're looking for. We know we're certain that line is going to hold, that we just don't want to put folks back in only to have to take them out again. So we just want to be absolutely certain so folks are confident that they don't have to leave.
Got you. And earlier this morning you said there were no active flames. Is that still true as of this moment?
Yeah, as far as active flames, I'm sure we had some hot spots, maybe some flare-ups. But as far as what you saw yesterday and kind of that fire behavior of more of a head fire or a moving fire, that didn't happen today. And so it was getting in there, finding those hot spots, and kind of seek and destroy, as we say, just to make sure that we have our perimeter secure, and then we can slowly move in and get the internal heat.
When you say this evening, is there an estimated time where that could be for us or people to expect some announcement or news tonight?
Yeah, so we have our meeting at 1500 at 5 or 6 p.m. That's kind of when we get together and we have that discussion. So I would imagine as soon as we're done with that and everyone's kind of consensus, that we'll be able to get something out, and we'll put something out on social media for sure.
Even though we don't know the cause, this came really close to homes. It's dry out there. It's hot out there. What's your message to people?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, fire season in Utah is very real, right? And the conditions that we're seeing is that the fuels that were very receptive. We had kind of very expansive explosive growth. That is to be expected with what the fuel type that we saw. It was also aided by some strong winds. So today you can kind of see that it's calm. That absolutely aided us and helped us in kind of getting our hands and our resources around the fire. I would say just be right fire-wise. That's the big thing. Is just your everyday actions. Just be cognizant that it's fire season. With the 24th coming up, the big thing, of course, is fireworks. Make sure you know where you can launch fireworks, where it's prohibited, that kind of a thing, and just be smart. That's the big thing.
And last thing for me, homeowners have endured a lot of fires in this area over the years. How does this fire compare to past years? and like what you guys have, as a department, have seen
Sure.
responding to this particular area.
So yeah, this fire was slightly abnormal in the sense of where it was, where it got to, and like we talked about, kind of that difficult terrain. It just made it that we couldn't get folks in there, we couldn't get resources, boots on the ground. As far as the growth and the conditions that we saw, that's typically what causes these fires to kind of go up the slopes. So as far as fire behavior, nothing necessarily unusual, but just the location was unfortunate, and that's why really the team was called in to get a grasp on it.
Sorry, I don't know if we went over this, but was there a change of resources since early morning?
So just additional resources, yeah. So what we do is when we take over the fire, we've had resource orders that we've maybe put in the night before, and we put in the morning. As they show up, we check them in so we know we're accountable for them. But what we want to do is engage them immediately and put them on the line. So as folks come in, we do our best to have a good running number. What will happen is this evening we will have an exact number for you as far as exactly who we have out there, and we can update those numbers for all of you later.
We've also probably already been over this, but is there any sense of the number of homes that were evacuated?
Yes, so we're going with 40 homes. So yep, that's the number that was under the mandatory evacuation. The voluntary evacuation, we don't have a good number as far as the exact number.
And forgive me on this, acreage again?
So 204. Yep. So the initial guess this morning was pretty close, 200. Then we thought we mapped it with an infrared drone. That went up to 400. But now with more accurate mapping, we're back down to 204.
And a half mile from homes, is that, I know the homes are kind of like on that field, so how many homes did you think it got a half a mile to? Do you have a guess? That's kind of a specific question.
No, you're good. No. I wouldn't want to guess, but yeah, certainly I'd say the half mile is probably from the closest home, right? As far as the roads go and the bends, if that makes sense. Yep.
Anything else you want to add?
Yeah, you mentioned earlier this morning that containment efforts might persist until Tuesday. Is there a change in that, or?
No change right now. Again, yeah, we're hoping and confident that tonight we'll get a much better idea of what we can call, if we do call any percent containment, and then listening to the resources that were engaged, just what it looks like out there, right, with the heat, progress, what we've made, and then hopefully, yeah, we just kind of incrementally increase containment.
Anything else you have?
I think I made my pitch, right, for fireworks safety. For fire-wise, that's the big thing. We do still have the mandatory evacuation in place, so please stay out of the area unless you absolutely, or unless you have permission to go in there if you are an evacuee. The voluntary evacuation, again, is voluntary, but if you have arrangements or what have you, or you don't need excessive travel, please don't do that. If you are in the valley, maybe try and see it from across the valley rather than right up close. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.